And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live with Renay. Today we are talking about Mogul versus Beach Bum. And I have with me today Miss Beverly Kirby and Miss Landria Seals Green. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, ladies?
Fantastic. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Welcome. You are welcome. I'm so excited to have you too. Um, I'm going to copy and paste your bios and put them in the comments. But this kind of started with a conversation with Bev and I. We were on the phone just chopping it up. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a live about this. And she was like, okay.
I think that this is something that a lot of us are going through, especially during this time.
Yes. Let me make sure that did your bio post the right way? Let me see. Maybe I should do them separately. Let me try this again. All right, let me post these bios really quickly. Yes, it is. I think we all absolutely are going through kind of especially during being home during COVID. It's like we're working nonstop. And you're like, gosh, I just want to, go to a beach somewhere or go be with friends and hang out. And it's just not, well, it's possible, but it's not recommended at the moment. So I want to get into and talk a little bit about kind of what got us here on this journey. So Beverly is a part of Goal Grinders. So she is our assistant programs director. And she was referred to Gold Grinders by another member of our board. And just when I talked to her, I was like, wow, we have so much in common. This is really going to be a good relationship. And so it's worked out really well. And then Landria, Beverly referred me to you for us to have this conversation. And the one thing that the three of us have in common is we have all built these amazing businesses and then sold them. So,
which is rare. Which is very rare.
Right. But you know what? That's really
Which is rare.
The way of the world in some industries where it's not uncommon that people will build up a business and right when it's at its peak, they sell because you can get, top dollar for a company and someone can take it and do whatever they want with it. And you ride off into the sunset, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Or you can rebuild and start something else, which I think both of you are also doing and I've done as well. So I want to start with you, Beverly. Mm-hmm. So you built a multi-million dollar company.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about your journey with us?
So I've worked with children for my entire career. It was something that I was really passionate about. It's something that I'm still very passionate about. I worked with children on the autism spectrum. And I really kind of had always said I wanted to start my own business because I wanted to work specifically with our community, our children, because there were a lot of kids of color who were receiving services, but they weren't receiving services from people that looked like them. And so that was really the main focus for starting the business. And I talked a little bit about my husband before we came on live. And my husband, he was the biggest supporter for this. He said, you are brilliant. You are amazing. You are talented. If anybody can do it, you can. We put together a team. And we just started working with kids, and we wanted to make sure that they were receiving the best services. That was always the focus. And so what I found was that when I told other people my vision and people saw my passion, other people wanted to work with me. Mm-hmm. And they bought into that. And so that's how we, it built very organically, because unfortunately, there's a huge need for services. And so we were able to really build. We got the company to the point where we were servicing all throughout Maryland, into Virginia and DC. We were looking to expand into other states. And that's when we realized, so either you infuse a significant amount of capital to really grow it to the next level, or you sell it to somebody who can then take it to the next level. So we decided to go ahead and sell and, take that step back.
Okay. It was good that you guys actually made that decision, because I do talk about sometimes knowing when to pivot your company, either scaling down, scaling up, or selling, depending on the market and, what you have available to you. My situation, I think, was really different, where I was the sole proprietor, sole owner, working long days, long hours, grinding for I don't know how many years, almost 10 years. And I was tired, and somebody just walked in on the right day at the right time. And I was like, hadn't thought about it, but okay, let's sit down and have this conversation. And that was on a Friday. By that Monday, we had the contracts and everything drawn up. And I was like, here are the keys.
Wow.
It's just kind of how it worked out. But, I slept so good that night. Like, I slept so good. Felt
Let
like
me
all
tell
of
you.
my worries. Yeah. So Landry, tell us a little about your experience in that arena.
Well, I will co-sign on that. Sleep after selling is one of the best. It is the best sleep. But due diligence isn't quite, here are the keys, here are the contracts, and let's go. My going into private practice, I'm a Chicago girl, and I'm raised on the south side of Chicago. And I think I was telling Beverly, it was just a true level of you've done something when you can go back to your high school and see your high school teachers. So I'd graduated from graduate school. I was a speech pathologist, and I went back to my high school, and I saw my dance teacher, because I went to a performing arts high school. And so my dance teacher, Miss Holda, and I went up and I said, Miss Holda, I graduated from graduate school. I'm a speech pathologist. And she turned to me and she looked at me and she says, where do you work? And I worked for a school system then. And she said, do not talk to me unless you have a private practice. And I thought, well,
wow.
how rude, Miss Holda, how rude. And so that was the one, that was the one indicator that I should have a private practice. And then one day I was, so I lived in Connecticut for the start of my career. And I was driving home I worked at a private school for kids with autism. And I was driving home, and one of these, the school bus stopped in front of me, and there was this little boy that, you always meet one child that stays on your mind. And there was this one little boy that I was at some point a speech pathologist for Yale, New Haven, like their outpatient centers. I was the SLP. And so this one little boy just always stayed on my mind. And I had been thinking about him, and I'm driving down this street, the school bus stops, and of course, the car stopped, and don't you know, the little boy I had been thinking of gets off the school bus. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I pulled over, rang the doorbell, and the mother said, we have been looking for you. And that is really, that was my second, you should have a private practice, Landria. But my real, you need to, have a private practice was, there was a person who was in the political arena who had suffered a family tragedy, and she had had a stroke, and no one knew. I don't think people know to this day that she had a stroke. And it wasn't severe, but it had impacted her fluency of speech. And someone called me and asked me to be her speech pathologist. And so I phoned a friend and was like, oh, I need to look real legitimate fast. And so she gave me this checklist of what I needed to do to start my practice. And I did. And I saw this woman for about a year and a half. And then I saw that little boy. And from there, I grew. So I have two tales of private practice. The first one is I've been in private practice since I was 25 years old. And the second one is, and that, I got tired like you, and I just closed the business, right? And then I started working with people and coaching people who were in practice to give them the support that I wish I had had. And I thought to myself, I can do this again, and I'm going to do it and do it really well. And so I did it. And I built a business to sell, and I sold it. I built it to sell in a few years, and I accomplished it. It was hard. It was a lot of work. And so I am on the, I actually closed last October, mid-October. So I sold a business during COVID.
Nice.
Yeah.
Listen, that journey to build, especially if you have, I had a brick and mortar, especially to build like that brick and mortar. And I don't know that if I would ever have another brick and mortar business. I think it would just depend on what it is. It was a lot of work. When I think back, like I don't think I slept for a year. I mean, especially in the stages of just building the business, every day, every night, all day, just grinding, making sure, everything was in order. And I remember when I signed my paperwork and got the keys, and I was just like, okay, it's fun. The adrenaline gets you. And, I think, and we've all worked with children. I had a technology-based daycare facility. So, when the kids start rolling in and you see the value that you're giving, and I love the kids. I love my staff. Like I still keep in touch with my staff, and I love them so much. They're all doing so well. But I didn't realize how tired I was until the day that I sold. Like that night of sleep, I hadn't slept like that in years. And I don't know if it was just like I laid in bed at night wondering, is the fire alarm going to go off? Is the temperature going to be okay? Is a sprinkler system going to malfunction? Am I going to go into this facility? It was a 10,000 square foot building. Am I going to go in and all the lights are working? Like it was just that laundry list of things that can happen that you have to take care of, especially when not only do you have staff, now you're talking about children and their parents, like it was a lot. It was a lot. I would never take the experience back because it's helped me to get to where I am today. And I can, I help other business owners, build and grow their businesses. But it was a lot. It was a lot. And even now, go ahead.
I have to tell you, during this whole COVID pandemic, I've had other business owners of businesses similar to the one that I owned, and they will talk about the things that they now have to consider. If they are servicing clients in their homes, are they sending therapists into the homes, and are they providing PPE? All of these things. And every time I finish those conversations, I'm like, thank you, God. That I don't have to have those concerns. It is such a huge, like you said, Renay, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I loved starting a business and watching it grow and feeling like I had really made a difference in people's lives. But once it was over, I said, oh, now I can breathe. Now I can exhale. Because it definitely, it can be so stressful. And I don't think you really realize how much constant stress you're under until it's over.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
It's interesting because I liked starting the business. I like thinking of new creative ways to run a business. I did not like, I think one of the misgivings about our industry, or anybody's industry, is that having a business does not make you, a better clinician. Like those things are two separate entities and two separate levels of focus. But for me, I like owning a business. I like being able to create something. So create something with my hand, craft an idea, have that idea come into fruition. I wish that I had enough money for all of the ideas that I had. So to Beverly's point, you have this business idea, but in order to grow it the way that you want it to grow and kind of take over the industry, like you just want to take it over, because you believe in what you're doing so much, you need to have an unlimited level of capital with the budget to be able to do it. So for us, for me, had so many contracts that we had garnered around our area, we just didn't have enough capital to fulfill all those contracts, which was one of the reasons that I wanted to partner with someone else who could undergird us financially so that we could expand it. But I have to say, in all of the hustle and bustle of business ownership, I still don't like what it does to us as people. That it can be an unhealthy space if you don't have a good team who is just there to support you.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. You have got to have a good support system. Your family has to either understand or be on board, and being an integral part of the business. And you have to figure out how to make time for yourself. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what are the people, things, and the forces so we've all had a business, sold a business, started another business, and currently have multiple businesses. What do you think it is that's that driving force to, want to keep going, want to do more, even though, your last experience, you were exhausted, but you're like, okay, I can do this again. I can do it better. I can make it better. I can do it faster. I can do all things because I'm Black girl magic, right? Where do you think that driving force comes from in that mindset?
Well, so I think that's sort of how we ended up in this conversation, because it changes from day to day. So today I may wake up and I say, you know what, I'm ready to conquer the world. I've got all of these really amazing projects that I'm working on with amazing people. I've got, the most supportive family behind me that tells me every day that I can do anything that I put my mind to. And then the next day, I just want to lay in bed all day and watch Netflix.
That was me today.
True story.
I certainly was like, today I woke up late because I stayed up late working and trying to get ahead of next week. Today I woke up, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to watch TV. And I got sucked into something on Lifetime. And I was like, this is a really good day. And when we were I've been actively looking for a beach house because I just want to be a beach bum. Like, I really just want to be a beach bum. It's getting closer and closer. And so I've started looking, but then I posted it on Facebook. Was it today or yesterday? I think the card I got for one of our Gold Grinder girls, saying how much we've changed her life and, how appreciative she is for all the things that we do and, how we've impacted her life. And I'm like, dang, I can't pack up and retire yet. Like, I can't. Like, I still feel like there's more to do because for Gold Grinders, we are making such an impact. And I do want Gold Grinders to be a household name. I want everyone to know about Gold Grinders. And, when people think about donating to a nonprofit, they're like, oh, Gold Grinders, because you're doing all this great work with these children. The one thing I'll say about my consulting business is I have the freedom to, take on clients as I want to. If I feel overwhelmed, I can take a step back. If I don't, and through some automation, that's made it easier for me. So that part I don't so much stress about, but the goal grinders, I in my heart, I can't let go. Like I just can't. I feel like there's this driving force pulling me to continue to make this as great as it possibly can. Landry, you want to chime in?
I think my goal in life is to work wherever I want, to not be limited by my geography, no matter
Yes.
what I'm doing. So
Yes.
I love technology. I want to make sure that I was telling my husband the other day, he's like, because we live in Michigan and it's cold in Michigan. They believe in all four seasons, and I think our summers are short. And I'm like, listen, one day we're gonna be in Turks and Caicos, and we'll just, press a button, and we'll be working from Turks and Caicos from a beach. That is the dream. That is the
Absolutely.
dream, because I want to be a beach bum that happens to be a mogul.
Yep.
I want to be that person.
Yep. Yep. I've always said my goal in life is to be able to work from anywhere in the world, me and my laptop, and I just happen to want to be sitting on a beach. And that's it. That's the dream. That's the possibility that you can have it all and you can build this life. You just have to be very strategic about it, and figure it out. So let's talk about, speaking of strategy, all of us on the call are what people would consider like a boss. So, Beverly, I'll start with you first. What are some of the things that you feel like help you keep it all together, keep you organized, keep you on track, and kind of help you have that balance that I think so many of us look for?
So the first thing, I'm very I like to do things in a certain order. And so every morning I have a very strict morning routine that I've been doing for years, that includes spending time reading the Bible. I do a number of Bible devotions. I do some journaling. I used to go to the gym. That has fallen off. I'm trying to get that back together. But, and that's sort of what gets me grounded. I can start the day. If I'm on the days when I'm not able to do those things, I feel out of sorts. And so it's very difficult. A part of that morning routine is making a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
I make lists. That's my thing. And so if it's not on my to-do list, then it's not going to happen. It's never going. If it's on the to-do list, it might not happen. But if it's not on the to-do list, it definitely won't happen. So those are the things that I feel like, I have a calendar. I'm old school. It's pencil and paper. I have my planner. I have my to-do list. I have my morning routine. And those are the things that kind of jumpstart my day to make sure that I get off on the right foot.
Okay. Landry, what about you?
I plan my week starting on Sundays. So on Sundays, I plan the schedule for myself and all of the people in my house, not my husband, but my children. So we happen to be homeschooling right now. So I plan the lessons for the week. I plan any meetings that I have. And I organize any, so if they have classes, I organize any objects that they need to fulfill a certain class so that everything is in its place. But I like to ease into my weeks and ease into my days. So I am likely to awake and not get out of the bed. I don't rush into my day. I think about my day, have conversations with God, and then I'm able to start my day.
Yeah, we all have some things in common. I too, like Beverly, am very list driven, very task oriented, and I live by. And I've transitioned somewhat from between. I go between phone and paper, but I will, as soon as I wake up or late at night before I go to sleep, I'll write a list of everything I need to do for the next day. And I'll look at what I have going on for the week, how many clients I have, what do I have due for them, I have other priorities, what I have going on with Goal Grinders. And I'm the technology chairman for my AKA chapter, and just trying to balance, all of those things and other calls and things I have to make. And so I put it all on a list. I probably do some things I do about a week ahead, a few things I'll do 2 to 3 weeks ahead. But for the most part, those kind of day-to-day things, I do it either at night or early in the morning. And for me, it's the satisfaction of either deleting it from my phone or checking it off on paper to say, okay, you did this, you got that done. Let's do the next thing. Let's do the next thing. And really, I try to block time for, each thing that I'm working on. So if I'm checking emails, I'm only going to check emails for like these 30 minutes. If I'm eating lunch, I want to only eat lunch for this, 20 to 30 minute time period, or working out, or, I try to put everything in blocks so that I can give my all to it and not be bouncing all over the place. And I find that I'm more productive when I do it that way. But it's definitely the writing it down, visualizing it, putting on paper. And like Landry said, it's a whole lot of conversations with God that happen throughout the day, to get through it.
Oh yes, I have almost constant conversations with God. I know a lot of times we try to stay away from religion and politics, right? Those are the areas that people generally try to avoid. But my faith gets me through. That's what gets me through when things get clustered.
Yeah.
That's a true story.
A higher purpose. Yeah.
True story. I mean, there are a lot of people who should be thankful that I have a relationship with God, because sometimes it is God that blocks them or blocks me from unleashing all the things that I would like to do or say. So it's a lot of people who just need to know God, just thank God because of who he is as an intermediary sometimes between me and them. So, yeah. Not gonna say no.
I think that's for a lot of us. We don't necessarily say all the things we said. It comes with age. But then I think after a certain point in time, I haven't gotten there yet to the point where I just say what I want to say and don't really care. But I know that it happens. There's this point.
Excited about that. I'm excited.
And no one can say anything back to you because I guess, you're so old. They're like, okay, let me just respect her. She old. But I want to talk a little bit about, so I think that certain lifestyles that we create, I want to talk about the financial piece of being a mogul or desiring to be a mogul, working towards those goals, as well as balancing that desire literally to vacation for life, right? That's really what being a beach bum is being on vacation 24/7 and working when you want to work. I think that for me, there were some financial sacrifices that I've made along the way in terms of being very strict with my money, being very in tune with where I spend my money and how I spend my money and what I spend it on. Because for me, sometimes I literally battle between, do I want to buy these shoes? I know they might only be $100, but $100 could be a night in a hotel, somewhere out the country. And most often, the shoes don't win. And I find myself battling through those type of things. So like during COVID, someone hit my car, and my car is 10 years old. It still looked, even then, it looked very good. And instead of buying a new car, I'm like, you know what? We're in COVID. I work from home 24/7. I don't really drive much anymore. I don't ever foresee physically going back into any type of building to work. So I don't really need to spend, $50,000, $60,000 on a car. So I went and got my car painted. My leather, my wonderful grand dog that you guys met earlier, he had put a hole in his nails are really long because he won't let anybody cut them unless they put him to sleep. So he put a hole in my leather. So I went and just got my 2 seats, the leather replaced, got the car painted. It looks brand new. I got my wheels. I guess what do they call? They were like refurbished them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy was like, "Oh, well, we have to paint them. Do you want them the same color? You want something different?" I was like, "Oh, I'm into this whole bling thing right now. So go on, bling them out." So I spent like, in total, I think I spent like $7,000. And my car looks brand new. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's paid for. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ride you till the wheels fall off. So for me, those are the kind of decisions that I make because there is a certain lifestyle that I want to live. And being on vacation and sitting on a beach or in a wonderful resort somewhere, like that's just what I love. I love it more than I love things. So I'm definitely an experience girl.
Absolutely. I love to travel. And so for me, I would much prefer to spend my money on traveling and experiences and vacations. Before COVID, again, because I mentioned I write everything down. So I have, I keep track of all the places that I go every year and I have them it's a thing. It's in a book. It's a thing. And so, in 2019, I was almost literally someplace every month. And then, of course, the last place that I went was our regional conference, our sororities regional conference in March of 2020. And then that was the end of the list for 2020. And that is the last place that I have been to Connecticut. But to go back to your original question, so when I was younger, I've never been afraid of hard work. I've always been a really hard worker. I will work 7 days a week. And so I always thought the harder you work, the more you can have, and you could just spend it and you just spend it as it comes. And of course, I realized that one, you have to work smarter, not necessarily harder. And you have to learn how to make your money work for you, not against you. And so I might have gotten the lesson a little bit later than I would have liked. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to give those lessons to our Goal Grinders girls so that they will have those foundations that I didn't necessarily have. And just to be fair, it's not because my parents didn't try to teach me that lesson, because my parents were very financially responsible. But, I learned that you have to use your money wisely and really focus on the things that are important. So that you can live the lifestyle that you want, and that you don't always have to work hard. It's okay to work hard for a period towards a goal, but you don't want to work hard forever.
Right. Yeah, I agree. What about you, Landry?
Right.
What are some of the financial either decisions or sacrifices that you feel like you've made to afford yourself kind of this lifestyle?
So for me, I am a things and experiences type of girl. I am. I don't like to, I don't get everything. It has to be something that, is that sparks my fancy, so to speak. It has something stands out. So when I purchase, it is the one thing that has really stood out. But to keep myself from purchasing things all over the place, I keep a list of things I want. So I keep a running list. And so in this running list, I share it with people who like me, who love me, in particular, particularly my husband. I have not always been the person, like, to Beverly's point, who, even though I grew up with parents who are very financially responsible, I was more of a like, oh, it's not a big deal. Um, but I married someone, and I call him, he's kept every dime he's ever made. So I
Mhm.
watched how he let his investments and all those things work for him. And then I watched my parents and how they have let things work for them. And so I am now on that bandwagon of watching it work for me, and at the same time enjoying my life. So if there's something that I want, I may not get it today, but there is a goal. So in
Mhm.
June, I might be able to afford that one thing that I wanted. So, in order to, or go to that place that I wanted to go. And since we're not going anywhere right now, it's usually, my list has gotten very long, but I would like to, and have been allowing my money to work for me. I like to make money in my sleep,
Mhm.
which means
Amen.
that, you have to set things up in a certain way. You got to listen to conversations that maybe um, may not spark your fancy all the time, but the long term goal is there. So that's how it's a balance for me.
Yeah, next week we're going to be talking about building multiple streams of income. I read
Yep.
something on Instagram a couple days ago, and I thought, wow, that is so true. It said something like, "My poor dad told me that investing was risky, but my rich dad told me that not learning how to invest um, is uneducated." And I thought, wow, that is so true, because a lot of times we don't, or some people don't teach their children about investing and diversifying and building a portfolio where you've got money working for you while you're sleeping, um, when they're young. And so we start off, out the gate behind, versus other families. They have their kids investing, as soon as they come out the womb, basically they're, opening accounts and building portfolios for them. And they're teaching them very early how to invest. And I think that's something that, our community needs to do better at, especially for those of us who have been investing for a while or are pretty savvy with, how we diversify our money across the board. So I think that also plays into the whole I just want to run away and lay on a beach and be, just chill for the rest of my life and kind of fly under the radar and live in peace and harmony with nobody around. And maybe that's the only child in me coming out.
I mean, we just got to plan. We
Right.
just have to plan for it. Um, we talk about investing. So if one of our kids comes up with a great idea, we'll say, okay, so let's look to see if there's a patent for that. Do we need to trademark that? So those are
Mhm.
conversations and discussions that they are accustomed to. But there's a group of people that teach their kids about those things. I mean, you look at what was it with the GameStop thing, right? When the GameStop
Mhm.
thing came out, I don't think that I think that we're part of a group that just don't always tell our business. But
That could
when
be
I
so
looked
true.
at Stop and who had certificates and who was able to cash in, I saw Black people. I saw,
Mhm.
people who gave, gave kids certificates of ownership and stocks and all of that. That happens. That happens
It
more
does.
than we
It
are
does.
discussing. But Black people cashed in too, and so did Black children. Now, is it all of us? No, but it's more people than I think we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, I think that over the years, a lot of investment clubs have popped up, and that's really helped our community to attempt to narrow the gap But yes, GameStop. I know I jumped in and jumped out. I didn't own GameStop before, but I bought a good amount one morning and sold at night, and I was happy with I tripled my money. I was like, I'm not playing with y'all.
I missed the GameStop. I don't have anybody to blame but myself. I saw the buzz and I kept thinking, well, why in the world are people buying GameStop? That just seems silly. And then the next thing I know, I wasn't paying enough attention. So I missed it.
Yeah. I mean, even
congratulations to you for getting in on it.
Right. Congratulations.
Thank you. When I went to make the trade, it was this warning sign that, this is a very volatile stock. Are you sure you won? I was like, whoa, okay. But, I haven't followed it the past couple of days, but, I know that it's trending downward. And I did read something that said, like, it's supposed to be at around $13 a share. And I was like, wow, that's crazy how that happened. Uh-oh, we're getting some static from somewhere.
I think it's me. My AirPods decided to stop working.
Oh, okay. So I want to backtrack a little bit before we leave. I want to run down the list of tips for anyone who's tuning in that we found most helpful. And I'll run down the list. We talked about, I think, time management and making sure that you kind of write down your goals and write down your list of things. We talked about you absolutely can have it all, but having a plan. So writing that plan down, how you're going to meet your goals, how you're going to create the life that you want, because everybody's goals in life are different. Someone might think that I'm crazy for wanting to just hang out on a beach all day. We talked about, being a little financially savvy with your money and looking at how your money can work for you while you're sleeping, along with, times when you're working for it. What else did we have in terms of tips?
I do want to say one thing that I think is really important is to have some accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Have someone or a group of people who are kind of keeping you on track with the things that you want to accomplish, because then it helps you feel, I have a friend, we meet. Is that me? I'm sorry, guys. I have a friend and we meet at the beginning of every year to kind of go over the things that we want to do, for the year, and then talk about some like 5-year goals that we have. And then we meet periodically just to kind of check in with each other to make sure that we're on track. I have an amazing support system. I mean, you two ladies are a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, as I mentioned, he is my biggest cheerleader. I have the most amazing friends. I have fantastic sorority sisters. I am in awe of the women that I interact with on a regular basis. And so that inspires me I can't slack because my friends are all getting the job done. So I think having somebody or some people to hold you accountable is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll agree. Our circle is filled with amazing women, men. So you're right. It's kind of hard to slack when you're in a circle of people who are doing great things, because then you almost feel like, well, goodness gracious, I need to step my game up. Oh, goodness. So what about you, Landra? Any other tips you would like to share?
I agree with the accountability. At the beginning of the year, I usually write myself a letter and create goals that I want. And I check in probably mid-year with the dreams that I have for myself. But if I could have any tip, I would say sleep. Sleep and eat well. There is no, in retrospect, and even in my present day, there is no reason ever to not think that staying up all night is good for you, your business, or anything that you touch. So sleep, eat well, don't take yourself too seriously. And I am, have a good support network. If you need some mentors and you don't have any, you got to find the people that you want to emulate and chase them down. So that they can either give you that moment of mentoring, that situational mentoring, and maybe you can establish a long-term relationship in terms of mentoring. But if you don't have a mentor, find one, find more than one, pick them and talk to them. Because hungry mouths don't get fed, and people who need help don't get support if they don't say it. So I will, those are my tips.
I definitely agree with you with the mentor. No matter where you are in life, you should always have a mentor, and you should be both mentoring up and down. So you should have someone that you too are also mentoring. Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree. You said something earlier that I wanted to talk about, Landria, real quick. You talked about how you always have all these great ideas. I am the exact same way. When I want to say in my 20s, I tried to start this company called Ideas to Work. And I had a whole list of like products and tools, just ideas that I wanted to develop and build. And I got a bunch of people together and pulled everyone together. And I was like, hey, we should start this business. And, we had started down the path. And then when it came to kind of the funding piece, that's where it fell off. And I was watching YouTube about 3 weeks ago. I don't even remember the name of the guy, but I was on Clubhouse and somebody mentioned, oh, you should go listen to this TED Talk from this guy. So I went and listened to it. And daggone it, he had a company called Ideas at Work versus to Work. And that's exactly what it was. They go in a room and they were literally building and developing either businesses or products or software. Like in a week, they would crank out like 10 different things. They would all just sit in this space and work together. And I'm like, well, gosh, dang it. That's what I wanted to do all these years ago. And I was doing some, you guys know I'm going through this. I call it decluttering, even though my house isn't cluttered. Just cleaning and getting rid of things. And I found my Ideas to Work notebook with all the ideas that I'd had in there. And do you know that every last one of them things has been invented? We can't hear you, Bev.
There are always. There's always room. There's always room. There's so many types of bread on the shelf. It's always worth it. It's always worth doing it.
It is. And I've learned that God gives more than just one of us an idea. It's who can bring it to market the fastest that wins. And I'm going to tell you, one of the ideas that was in my notebook was email. So you know how long ago this was, because email did not exist when I was trying to do this. So email was one of my ideas. And I was just like, dang.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. But Bev, you had cut out. Did you want to chime in?
I was just saying that, there have been a number of times when I've had, this is so frustrating. Sorry. I've had these ideas and I wish that I had brought them to fruition. And then I would see somebody, especially I used to be a classroom teacher. So, as a classroom teacher, we make all kinds of things for students.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of them that I had a student that had special needs and he wasn't able to communicate vocally. He needed to communicate with his eyes. And so we had created this board where he could respond using his eyes. And, about 5 years later, I saw that there was technology that did that. And I thought, oh my goodness, we literally made that
mm-hmm.
in our classroom with this student. And it was a multi-million-dollar idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I try to if it's something I think of, I try to jump on it. I'm still waiting for my big patent. So we'll see how any of that works out.
It'll come.
Yeah, it'll come, right? Exactly. At some point. But I want to thank you, ladies. I really enjoyed our conversation today, especially just to hear the viewpoints of other women who have kind of been through what I've been through, who have some of the same long-term goals that I have. And I'm sure not just us, but other people as well. And really just kind of having a lighthearted conversation about it all. And, like Landria said, don't be too hard on yourself and, get some sleep, because that is one thing that I think many of us don't take or don't get enough of, especially when you're kind of in that building process and you're grinding to get to a certain point. But it definitely is not sustainable. You have to take care of yourself, or else you're no good to anyone else. So I want to thank you, ladies, again for being on Live with Renay, and we'll be back next Sunday. And next Sunday, we are going to be talking about how to build multiple streams of income. You can follow me at I am Renay Butler on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all social media platforms, TikTok. I think I have like one video up, but I'm working on some stuff. So we'll see what happens. But thank you, ladies. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.